Philadelphia, July 1776. The air is thick, humid, oppressive. Windows shut tight against the horseflies. And in a brick building on Chestnut Street, 56 men are about to commit treason. What they're signing isn't just a declaration. It's a death warrant, their own. If this revolution fails, every name on that parchment becomes a noose. On July 4th, 2026, that document turns 250 years old, a quarter millennium. And we're still arguing about what it actually means. Here's the thing about the Declaration of Independence. The version you learned in school? It's the edited version. The safe version. Thomas Jefferson's original draft contained a passage so explosive, so uncomfortable, that it was struck before anyone signed. A condemnation of slavery, written by a man who owned hundreds of enslaved people. That contradiction, ideals versus reality, aspiration versus action, has defined America for 250 years, and it starts right here in this room. Let's go back. By early 1776, things had already gotten bloody. Lexington, Concord, Bunker Hill. The colonies and Britain had been at war for over a year. But here's what surprises people. Most colonists didn't want independence. Not at first. They wanted their rights as Englishmen. They wanted representation. They wanted the king to listen. Then, January 1776, a 47-page pamphlet hits the streets. Common Sense, author Thomas Paine. And it changes everything. Common Sense sold over 500,000 copies in a population of 2.5 million. Adjusted for today's numbers, that's like selling 60 million books in a few months. Paine's argument was radical. He said reconciliation was impossible. He said hereditary monarchy was absurd. He said America had a chance to begin the world over again. Public opinion shifted, and by June, the Continental Congress was ready to do something that had been unthinkable just months before. June 7, 1776. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia stands in Congress and introduces a resolution. These united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. 4 days later, Congress appoints a committee of 5 to draft a declaration. John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, Robert Livingston, and the youngest member, Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was 33. Adams and Franklin were already famous. So why did they give the job to the youngest guy? Adams later explained, he was the better writer. Jefferson rented a second-floor room at a bricklayer's house on Market Street. There, at a portable writing desk he designed himself, he began drafting the most consequential document in American history. 17 days. That's how long it took Jefferson to draft the Declaration. From June 11th to June 28th. Less than 3 weeks to reshape the world. The document has 3 parts. First, a statement of philosophy. Why governments exist and when people can overthrow them. This is the part everyone remembers. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. 21 words. Perhaps the most influential sentence ever written in English. The second part is a list of grievances against King George III. 27 complaints. Basically a detailed indictment explaining exactly why Britain had forfeited the right to rule. And the third part, the actual Declaration of Independence, the legal bit, the part that said, we're done, we're out, we're our own country now. But here's what most people don't know. Jefferson's original draft included a 300-word passage condemning the slave trade as a cruel war against human nature itself. Jefferson blamed Britain for bringing slavery to America. He called the slave trade piratical warfare, and he condemned the king for preventing colonial efforts to end it. The passage was struck, renewed to secure votes from South Carolina and Georgia, and because, let's be honest, Northern delegates had their own financial ties to the slave economy. And this is the contradiction at the heart of America's founding. The man who wrote "All men are created equal" owned over 600 enslaved people during his lifetime. Some historians argue the Declaration was aspirational, a set of ideals America would grow into. Others say it was hypocritical from the start. The truth is probably both. July 2nd, 1776. Congress actually voted for independence. July 4th was when they adopted the text of the Declaration. The vote had already happened. John Adams thought July 2nd would be the day Americans celebrated. He wrote to his wife Abigail, predicting fireworks and parades. but on the 2nd, not the 4th. Most historians believe the actual signing ceremony happened on August 2nd, almost a month after the Declaration was adopted. The famous painting of everyone signing together? Artistic license. 56 men eventually signed. The youngest was Edward Rutledge of South Carolina, just 26 years old. The oldest was Benjamin Franklin at 70. John Hancock signed first as President of Congress. His signature was so large and flamboyant that John Hancock became an American synonym for signature itself. There's a story that Hancock said they must all hang together, and Franklin replied, "Yes, we must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately." The quote's probably apocryphal, but it captures the real danger. These men weren't signing a feel-good document. They were signing a target on their backs. Treason against the crown was punishable by death, hanging, drawing, and quartering. Several signers did lose everything. Their homes burned, their families scattered, some died penniless. The revolution they started wasn't a foregone conclusion. It was a gamble. The original parchment declaration is now preserved at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. It sits in an argon-filled titanium case protected from light, air, and time. 250 years. That's the distance between that sweltering summer and right now. A quarter of a millennium. 10 generations of Americans trying to figure out what those words actually mean. Because here's the thing about all men are created equal. In 1776, men meant property-owning white men. That was it. That was the whole franchise. Women couldn't vote. Enslaved people were counted as 3/5 of a person for representation purposes, but had no voice themselves. Indigenous peoples weren't citizens at all. So was the Declaration a lie? Or was it a promissory note, as Martin Luther King Jr. later called it, that America has spent 2.5 centuries trying to cash? The Declaration has been invoked by abolitionists fighting to end slavery, by suffragists demanding women's right to vote, by civil rights activists in Selma and Birmingham, by immigrant rights advocates today. Each generation has taken those words and pushed them further, extended the circle of who all men includes. The document hasn't changed, but our reading of it has. July 4th, 2026, the semi-centennial. That's the 250th anniversary. And America 250th, the official congressional organization, is already planning nationwide events. Their goal? To engage all 350 million Americans in the celebration. Educational programs, community events, a national moment of reflection on what these 250 years have meant. But here's the honest truth. The anniversary is happening during a time when Americans are deeply divided about how to tell their own history. Whose stories count? Whose pain matters? Some want the founders celebrated as heroic revolutionaries. Others want their slaveholding and displacement of indigenous peoples centered. Most Americans probably want both, the full picture. What would the founders think of 2026 America? That question gets asked a lot, and honestly, they'd be completely lost. Not because of politics, because of technology, airplanes, the internet, nuclear weapons, a population of 300 million instead of 2.5 million. It's a different planet. What they couldn't have predicted is how their document would travel. The Declaration influenced the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, independence movements across Latin America, Asia, and Africa. Ho Chi Minh quoted Jefferson when declaring Vietnamese independence in 1945. The idea that governments derive their powers from the consent of the governed went global. The founders never saw that coming. So what can you do with this anniversary? First, actually read the Declaration, the whole thing, not just the famous parts but the grievances. See what they were actually angry about. Second, look up Jefferson's original draft. The anti-slavery passage that got deleted, read it. Sit with the fact that it was written and then erased. That tells you a lot. Third, if you're in D.C., visit the National Archives. See the original, the actual parchment. There's something powerful about standing in front of the real thing. And fourth, this is the big one. Ask yourself, what does all men are created equal mean now? Who's still not included? What work remains? America 250 has resources on their site for communities planning their own celebrations. Schools, civic groups, families. It's designed to get everyone involved. 250 years. We're the inheritors of a document that was radical and flawed. visionary and hypocritical, all at once. That's not a contradiction to resolve, it's a tension to hold. The founders didn't finish the work. They couldn't have. Each generation gets to decide what those ideals demand of them. And that's not a bug, it's the design. If you found this story worthwhile, hit subscribe. We cover the untold moments that shape the world every week. A like helps others find us too. July 4th, 1776. 56 men in a sweltering room signed their names to an idea. That idea, imperfectly realized, endlessly contested, turns 250 years old in 2026. They got some things right. They got some things terribly wrong. And they never imagined a world where their words would still be read, debated, and fought over, a quarter millennium later. The Declaration of Independence isn't a museum piece. It's an argument, one that America has been having with itself for 250 years. And the argument isn't over.